Okay, so this is a monkey banana study. Basically, they had like five monkeys in this controlled cage, big zoo situation, and they put a banana up on a raised platform, and there's a ladder or staircase or something.
Yeah.
Did you hear me talk about this before?
I've heard it somewhere else before.
Yeah,
Actually, yeah.
it was really interesting. So, what they would do is every time a monkey would try to get the banana, they would spray all the other monkeys with cold water.
Yep.
So at some point, the monkeys started, every time a monkey would try to get the banana, the other monkeys would hit him. Eventually, no monkeys tried to do it. They introduced a new monkey in, replaced a new monkey with for one of the old ones. And very quickly, that monkey got trained to not get the banana, even though they weren't spraying water anymore.
Right.
And then eventually, all the monkeys got replaced. None of the monkeys had ever been sprayed with water, but they didn't go get the banana.
Norms.
Hmm?
It's like creating normality.
Yeah, social norms. Yeah. All right. So, keeping that in mind, we're doing that all the time. We're doing stuff and not doing stuff because we just think that's how you're supposed to do it.
Right.
All right. So, agricultural revolution. Remember, I said the Abrahamic religion started in the Fertile Crescent.
Yep.
That's where farming started. Hunter-gatherer tribes, paleo tribes now, their myths, their sort of religions or their spiritual, their worldview is that they are guests in a bigger universe.
Mm-hmm.
They're not God.
Right.
Okay. So, looking at them, we can kind of assume that that's probably how most humans were during the paleo times, right? Mm-hmm. So then we start farming. Now land becomes, instead of being grateful for the land and there's abundance, now land becomes property. You own it,
Yep.
which means it becomes scarce now. Okay, so now it's limited. We're not sharing this forest anymore. This is mine now. So what does that mean for the next guy? If I have more land than him, we're talking about food now. That's his food. That's his family's food. We're talking about surviving. And now we've made the land, a person can own a big chunk of land. So this is going to create conflict. Mm-hmm. All right. If I want more land and that infringes on what you have, you're going to be ready to kill for that because that's feeding your kids. Okay, so now we have this ownership idea. Now the world becomes something to own, which is new. Mm-hmm. It's not how paleo tribes see it now, and that's not how they saw it before. So that's a new idea. So land becomes owned. Then the next thing is animals, domestication of animals. Then people and women. If you think about once ownership creates conflict.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how do we solve that kind of conflict? Conflict where we're talking about potentially not having enough food. You use force, physical force, brute force.
Yeah.
So with men and women, if physical force becomes sort of like the rule of the day, like the value, like physical force is the new power. It's power now. It's not the shaman, with his visions. It's not the woman who can nurture and create new people, babies can't, give birth. It's not the guy who's good at cooperating with everyone and making a smart plan to get the food, to hunt the animal. Now it's who can kill other people potentially, who has the most power to potentially kill other humans. That becomes the new power. So who wins that game? It's men, right? Mm-hmm. It's not even a comparison. Even like a woman who's like works out and like is strong, like is much better shape than in other women, I can still, you could take an average guy and you could probably beat the shit out of her.
Yeah.
So there's just really no comparison on a physical level in terms of force. So, so now women become less valuable because value is now determined by how much force you have. So since women are less valuable, we've already started changing our minds and thinking that we can own things and people now. So now women become property. So if a woman is property, what determines her value? How many times she's had sex, basically. Has she been pregnant before? Is she fucking other guys? It's no different than a couch. A couch that's been used a lot. Isn't that what we talk about women? She's been used.
Yeah.
Because you gotta hand down the shit to your kids now.
Right.
Like you own this. Like you're gonna hand down your legacy.
Right.
And so like you gotta make sure he's yours.
Yep. And also, you know, the effort that's required, you're giving resources to that woman.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're giving resources to those kids.
Right.
So you want to make sure they're your kids. And this whole idea of, you know, women getting with the provider, but trying to get the women fucking the alpha male and secretly, and then trying to get a provider to raise the kids, and then the men having, you know, a woman who can raise the kids, and then trying to fuck women on the side. That's not human nature, like with a capital N. That's just a game that we have to play in the ownership paradigm.
Yep.
So, so now that a woman's value is based on her lack of sex, essentially, her lack of her sexuality, her being pure, right? Like a person could be impure. I mean, it's such a horrific idea.
Right.
But then that's when we start having the religions. The religions, basically, Abrahamic religions, basically are mental shackles, mind control, to control something, to hold something down that is extremely powerful, female sexuality. So we say that we call it a sin and say you're going to go to hell and all these things. Because we can't just go around like chopping women's heads off if they fuck somebody, because then we run out of women, right? And then the whole thing would just, I mean, that would be, you know, in which they kind of do actually still stone women, right? And do stuff like that, or at least ostracize the woman. Mm-hmm. So how do you get women to not have sex? Well, you have to tell them that they're going to go to hell and threaten to stone them, put big sheets over them so guys can't see them and get horny for them. You villainize the women, villainize female sexuality. Oh, it's you know, it's leading men astray. Eve with the apple and the snake and all that silly shit. Anyways, women are horny as fuck and they can't do anything about it, and they're taught that horniness is bad and that their value is based on their lack of acting on that horniness. And so women just adapt. They're just adapting. They're just having to play this game where they pretend that they're not sexual. Mm-hmm. And so women start to play this game they have to do, and men being men, and there's no reason for us to not have sex. You know, we get high fives, right? If we have sex. So as a man, you're trying to get sex from the woman because you're human, and it's normal. It's totally healthy. There's nothing wrong with it. But you have been taught, and she has been taught, that if she has sex with you, she's going to lose her value, not just in society's eyes, but in your eyes. And why is she even entertaining the idea of fucking you? Why is she even sitting there talking to you? Because she likes you. Mm-hmm. But she knows that if she fucks you, you won't value her anymore. That's the predicament. So she has to make you wait. And how long she makes you wait and the kinds of things you have to do varies from culture to culture. You know, people spread out and you see different traditions evolve. But basically, you know, the men have to get a woman to do something that, okay, I'm a man, I'm trying to get her to have sex. I know that she shouldn't do it. I know that she knows she shouldn't do it, and yet I still got to try to get her to do it. So how do I get her to do this? The word seduction comes from the Latin word seducere, which means to entice or to lead astray. It has a negative connotation of like getting someone to do something they're not supposed to do. And recently, like in the last, you know, couple hundred years, the word seduction has taken on this more sexual term, because to lead a woman astray, like that's the MO. That's what you need to do to get someone to do something bad is to lead them astray. Well, the most common way that happens, the most common way that seducere happens is men dealing with women. So because that's the most common enticing or leading astray phenomenon in human interactions and human experience, that leading astray, that enticing away from what you're supposed to be doing, or enticing you to do something you shouldn't, it took on a sexual connotation. So now in the dictionary, there's actually the third definition under seduction, or to seduce, is to entice someone sexually. But that's not the original meaning. It got that meaning because seducere was most commonly used to describe what a man does when he's interacting with a woman. Mm-hmm. So seduction, the seduction paradigm is based on ownership. You probably heard the term courtship.
Yep.
Courtship just comes from the times when there was a court, royal court, where nobility, royal class, it was like the big nightclub of the Middle Ages, right? So in this big hall where there would be, you know, people would network, they would also, you know, mingle and date, you know, meet people, and, you know, for romantic reasons. There was, you know, that's what you're doing in the court. So you have a courtier, courtesan, members of the court. It's very structured, and you start to have like these traditions, you know, poetry and wit and all these kind of mental games that people would play, intrigue, and you'd also have, it sort of became like this game to like try to get women to do stuff that they shouldn't, right? So you'd have guys that were like very clever, sharp, witty, you know, maybe good at poetry or good at playing an instrument or something, like good at dancing. And so you start to have this kind of under the table or like unspoken tradition, unofficial tradition of trying to get females in the royal class to have sex with you. And I think there's kind of two ways that this happened. First of all, you'd have women that had been married off to a guy for political reasons. Those two families would form an alliance that way. That she wasn't really in love with that guy. So since she's, you know, a duchess or, you know, a queen or whatever, well, she's horny. She wants to fuck somebody. So she doesn't like this guy. I mean, she maybe has to here and there, give him some kids and stuff. But she can pick a younger, you know, courtier, right? So when she picks him, he's now the favorite. She's given him favor. So now he gets to fuck the queen. Okay, so there's that. But then there's also the females that haven't been married off yet for political reasons. They have a lot of they have political value. And so that's an even more enticing, that's a more like high risk, you know, dangerous game, which for guys, you know, obviously that's going to be more exciting, right? So trying to fuck the fair maiden, right? Because if she has sex with this guy who's not in the royal class, her value as a political tool is gone, right? So she really shouldn't do that, and he's going to really try to get her to do it. So now it's a seduction now. That's what seduction is. Courtship, it has a nice, we think it's nice and sounds nice, right? But courtship is really just seduction, trying to get someone to do something that they shouldn't do. Why shouldn't they do it? Because it lowers their value. Why does it lower their value? Because their value is based on being a piece of property. So courtship is basically treating women like property. And women can sense if you are courting them. And when you court a woman, when you try to run, so there's two ways of courting. There's the chivalrous way, which is where you show up and give her flowers and visit her every day. You know, we think about the knight, like a knight in shining armor. He shows up. My intentions are honorable, right? He makes nice with the parents, and may I court your daughter? You know what I mean? There's a dowry. You know, you got to pay the family to, I guess, have sex with this woman, or marry her, which really means have sex with her. You guys had to get married, right, to have sex. So that's the chivalrous way, and we guys still do that. When you take a woman out to dinner and buy her things, I still do that. I mean, it's very difficult, you know, to get a girl to meet up with you for drinks, and then a lot of times women will pay or pay half, but a lot of times they won't. They'll just sit there and be like, "Thank you," you know. And I kind of have to assume that, like, I make sure I have enough money in my bank account to pay for those drinks if we have drinks. So, you know, the first one or two times you hang out with a woman, you're probably gonna be paying for some shit.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I'd like to get away from that, but, you know, I'm still here. We're still in this transition period, and you're gonna see where we're transitioning to in a second. But that comes from chivalrous courtship. The other courtship is seduction, and that's the cheaper way to do it, right? If you can have sex with her without spending as much money as the white knight over here, and then not get married also. See if you can have sex with her without getting married, spending money, and try to do it faster, right? So that's what seduction is. They're both based on the same paradigm that a woman is a piece of property, and that she shouldn't have sex because that will lower her value. So because of this, women have to hide their sexuality. Also because of this, men are like the monkeys with the banana. They aren't told. They're told that women the women shouldn't have sex, basically. Men are told this. Men are taught this, and yet we still wake up with a heart on and want to do it. So how do we do it? And then we're taught, well, the way to do it, you gotta sweet talk them, you gotta be smooth, you gotta make money, you gotta have a nice car, you gotta say the right thing, you gotta impress them. Why? Because they don't already want to have sex. If they do, that she's a slut, she's bad, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you can probably think of examples in high school where a girl maybe like gave a guy a hand job. Oh, she's a slut now. You know, the word gets around and it's like, whoa, Debbie's easy, you know. Give a guy a hand job. What about the guy? Is he a slut? No, he's awesome. But all Debbie was doing was something that she naturally just wanted to do. As natural as eating food, just breathing. Mm-hmm. And yet now she's a bad person for it. She's less of a person for it. So, because of this, because as men, we want women, we're proactive, we're more aggressive, we have more testosterone. Our nature is to thrust, right? And that physically, you know, you're with your cock, you want to stick it in women. So there's this whole kind of like proactive movement, this movement outwards to approach and to talk to women and to make the first move and all this. We already kind of want to do that. We're aroused. Women are aroused just as fast as men. They just found this out, which is really interesting. Women are aroused just as fast as men, but with men, we're there's the idea that we're more easily aroused. Well, really what it is men are aroused visually.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've seen women out this window, and I've been turned on, like not like getting a hard on, but like I've seen women already that I would like to have sex with, just from looking at them from like a block away.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. That happens to me all day, where I'm aroused because for me, because men are turned on visually by what they see. We're constantly turned on. Women aren't turned on by visuals as much. They're turned on by feeling like they're making a connection with someone. They're turned on by smell, by a lot of things that aren't directly observable.
Right.
Your thought process. So if I walk around in public, I'm getting turned on all the time. She's not. She gets turned on just as fast as me. Her sex drive is just as strong as mine, probably stronger. But the thing that turns her on is not instantly accessible. Mine is. So there's this idea that men want sex more. We don't. We don't want it more. We're just turned on by visual, and there's visual everywhere. Women are turned on by thought process, and you can't have a thought process. You can't have a conversation with people all the time. Most of the conversations you have are meaningless. You at the checkout counter. How are you? Good. How are you? Good. Bye. So, or at work. You can't talk about sex at work. Sexual harassment, right? So, anyways, women having to hide sex, men and women being told that female sexuality is bad.
Or it doesn't exist.
Or, yeah, that's actually more accurate.
That's more good.
That it doesn't exist, that women aren't horny. Men and women both being told that men need to run game or seduce, i.e. deception. I didn't mention this, but okay, if you want to get someone to do something they shouldn't do, how do you do that?
Deceiving.
You have to deceive them. You pretty much have to.
Yeah.
So, or make that option, this option, as extremely fucking attractive, like as attractive as possible, which is why, and that what that turns into is men working their ass off to get a car and money, and it's very much a passive aggressive way to get women. It's a passive way. I just want to make myself as fucking awesome as possible, so that women will want to fuck me. Because women shouldn't have sex. They don't even want to have sex. I need to do a lot to be just so fucking enticing that she'll do the bad thing with me. The women do get like turned on or more interested in a guy if he has a nice car. What's going on there is, first of all, the car can indicate that he's successful, which indicates leadership. The car also, if it's kind of like a sports car, can indicate that he takes risks, he's bold, he's aggressive. Sports cars, it goes fast and it's actually more dangerous to drive, right? I mean, if you push it to its capabilities. So what kind of guy can handle that? That kind of indicates what kind of guy he is. He's awake, he's alert, he's sharp, he's a leader, he's not afraid. Also, just a car that's, a sports car is just exciting. Motorcycles, there's actually the vibration of the motorcycle that stimulates women. So there's the mechanical aspect of just a fucking vehicle that's fun to be in is also exciting. And I think all those things get kind of mixed up together for the woman. Women can be turned on by a lot of different things. Earlier I was saying like I'm still turned on by the same boring shit that turned me on when I was 15.
Yeah.
Women are way more flexible. They get turned on by a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. I'll actually get to that in a second. So we got the female sexuality being hidden from men and women being told that men need to seduce to get the women. So the women are expecting you to seduce them. In other words, deceive them. They're already expecting that. You think you have to do that, so you're trying to do that. Then we have women being the hotel, or the women being it's her home, it's your hotel. Mm-hmm. So there's a protection element in terms of like, not only, her being smaller, weaker, slower. So she can get physically hurt if you like lose your temper. Mm-hmm. She can get raped. She can also get a baby in her. So there's a protective element going on. The fact that men are more proactive and aggressive in their behavior in general, combined with the fact that we're turned on visually, so it seems like we want sex more. And if you think about making a deal, like whoever wants it more is gonna get the shittier deal.
Yeah.
So it just looks like men want sex more than women. And so this turns into also, and because sex, for women, their value has been tied into sex rather than like, their ability to hunt and gather, or, things that would be non-sexual that maybe would help a tribe. Mm-hmm. A woman who's smart and can catch fish, she'd make a good wife, right? And you see that in the more paleo tribes, more like what we call like primitive, native tribes. They, I've seen like on documentaries and stuff talking about a woman that would make a good wife. It's not like, oh, she has nice tits or whatever. It's that she has like some sort of skill, some sort of life skill. It's like, well, oh, she's a good hunter. She's she's a hard worker. That kind of stuff it's like that she'd be a good wife. So it's not like, oh yeah, she's hot. They're not even thinking about that. So basically, in our culture, a woman's value is about how hot. In other words, does she give me a boner? Like that, somehow we've equated that with her value. So we see, and then in what is hot, what's exciting is totally culturally, make it up, skinny blondes, like that's like the kind of the status quo.
Right.
So we know that, earlier humans didn't think that. They liked, like what we call beasts now, right? You can see the sculptures and stuff that in, Middle Ages, it was like plump with like small tits.
Yep.
And it varies culture to culture, big ass, small ass, all these different things. It's culturally defined what's beautiful, what's sexy, right? What turns guys on. Like I said, if you wiped out your conditioning, just a woman would give you a hard on, even if she was not what we call pretty. So it's funny, it's like the hornier I am, like my standards go down. But standards, I mean, that's fucking bullshit. It's standards, meaning like this woman is not as valuable as this woman. They're both women. And if I enjoy fucking this fat chick, why not? What's bad about that? My standards. What does that say about me? Am I bad? Am I a less valuable man now? I've lost respect, right? Because the property that I'm fucking is not as good as this guy's property. So my point with the horniness is like, we say standards go down. Well, really what it means is, as my testosterone goes up, my sex drive goes up, and I haven't been, I'm not like, I've been having a lot of sex. So sex is like super exciting to me because I haven't been having a lot of it. Well, what the end result of that is, it's not that my standards go down, it's just that I'm turned on with less. All right? And again, less, that's a value word. I'm turned on by more, let's say. Anyways, all this does is this creates the pedestal illusion, where, we see a woman who the more a woman turns you on, the more out of your league she is, the more she's on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's tragic. It's like so ironic, but the more a woman turns you on, the more on a pedestal she is to you. Because we've equated a woman being pretty and sexy to having high value, combined with the fact that she doesn't want to have sex, so you want it more in the deal. You're the hungrier one in the deal. And the fact that you have to use deception, which requires more mental effort, makes you're the one working harder than she is, which creates the frame that she's more valuable. So we have this pedestal illusion. And what's really interesting is the women that turn you on the most make you the most nervous, right? The women that you want the most, your tens or whatever, they make you the most nervous. And yet, if you can start to talk to those women, approach those women, and go after those women, you'll find that you're much more successful with those women. I have a really hard time approaching like a white 8. I can say she's pretty. Oh, of course, I'd love to bend her over. I'd love to fuck her. But she doesn't make me go like, God damn.
Yeah.
But when a girl makes me go, God damn, I'm way more successful. So it's counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
Me and Ian have been talking a lot about this. You know, when we go after our tens, Ian likes tall, skinny blondes. And so he and I both have our fair amount of competition because, you know, a lot of guys like tall, skinny blondes, right? And then, you know, for me, I like the kind of the light brown, curvy, big ass, like the rap video chicks.
Yeah.
That's what I like. And so I'm dealing with like these like, tough, ghetto, tough, bigger guys that are like, you know, black and Hispanic and are in their culture. It's normal to be approaching women, to do cold approaches.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm dealing with like that kind of competition as well. And so what's interesting is even despite that competition, the fact that I'm extremely passionate about her, but at the same time treating her as a human being, nobody else matters. Mm-hmm. I win. So, you know, when you think, oh, if I go after the women that I really want, like, well, don't all these other guys want that woman? Well, first of all, no, because like a lot of the women that Ian is into, I can say they're pretty, but I wouldn't even approach them. I wouldn't even look twice at them. Say, oh, cute blonde. But to him, he's like, oh my God. And the same for him. I showed him kind of some of the women I like, and he's like, oh man, I wouldn't even talk to her. So that's kind of an extreme example, but you know, don't assume, first of all, that this girl has all these guys after her and you got all this competition. But even if she does, it doesn't matter. If you have that passion, but you treat her as a human being, you're going to be way different than all these other guys. Also, even if a lot of guys do find her attractive, they also are dealing with the pedestal illusion. The hottest women don't get approached.
Yeah.
Because guys are scared.
Good point.
Yeah, they probably have a lot of guys like, call it social circle,
Yeah.
college or whatever, that are trying to vie for them.
Mm-hmm.
But like, they don't get approached.
And the vying is going to be deception. And it's going to be deception in the form of chivalrous courtship.
Yep.
I'm your friend.
I'm your friend. Yeah, we're friends. Now, what's interesting is to kind of wrap this all up, make sure I hit all the points here. And I know this is a lot, but keep in mind I'm recording this. You can review this later. Oh, it's right here.